Perfect. Okay, go ahead and call the meeting to order. Start with a roll call. McKee here, Schultz.
Here.
Bottoма.
Present.
Varenkamp.
Here.
Nichols.
Here.
Perfect. Take a stand and join in the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Agenda approval. Does anyone from council wanna move anything? Remove anything, add anything? Not anything from staff?
7A, we need to table until the next meeting.
Okay. Anything else?
Nothing else from staff.
Okay, I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda,
Motion
with
to
the
approve
with the removal of
modification.
7A. Yep,
Second.
perfect. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, commission representatives, we have Jay and John from Planning and Parks and Trails respectively.
Jay is online.
Perfect. Yeah. Then on to open forum, for in-person comments, and Jay, if you'd like to walk us through that.
Certainly. So, introduce myself to everyone since this is my first council meeting. My name is Jay Tobin. I am Corcoran's new city administrator. I started on December 4th. I came from the city of Shakopee, where I was the Parks and Recreation Director there. And prior to that, I worked for the city of Chaska as their finance manager. Prior to that, I was in the Army for a very long time. As we have this opportunity, this is anyone who would like to speak on a topic that is not on the agenda. Please feel free to come up and make a comment.
Thank you. No takers? Okay. Then we will move on to, let's see here, no presentations, move on to consent agenda, which might be a record for us in terms of number of consent items. Does anyone want to pull anything?
We should pull N and T.
N and T, okay. Anything else? Okay, I will. Dean, did you have some?
Nope.
Oh, I'll entertain a motion to approve consent agenda items A through M.
B, not A.
Thank you for the correction. B, because A was already tabled, B through M and O through S.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Alan, you had N and T.
Yeah, I just wanted to pull those for public recognition for the donors that made those events so successful. If I can find them. Just monitor those.
Also, I'd like to note there was a clerical error in the resolution 2023-106. I accidentally put Loretto Fire, which is their former name, so I would like to update that. Just to reflect it correctly.
Makes sense. West Suburban now.
Yes.
I won't read the full resolution unless you want to do as mayor, but
Go for it. Whatever you want to do.
I would like to thank the city staff and volunteers that made the holiday toy and drive and parade such a wonderful event. As the city noted, we raised 1,000 pounds of food and over $4,000 in toys and monetary donations through the parade, and the stanchion donated pizza, pop, and water for city staff during the organization. The stanchion bar also provided $11,000 in toys and monetary donations for Toys for Tots. So thank all those that volunteered, city of Corcoran employees, the new fire department, as Jessica mentioned, the Rogers Fire Department, Hanover Fire Department, North Memorial, Hennepin County Sheriff's Department, Stanchion Bar, and other local businesses and sponsors that made that event so successful. Thank you very much for everyone.
Also, thank you. And you have T as well.
T as well.
Another-
Can I add
Yeah.
to that?
Sure.
I want to personally thank the same people as you, but just for the people at home. No one has to be there that night. It's not mandatory. And it's one of those events, one of the many that we have every year that although Jess and Officer Burns do a good job organizing it, and thank you for that. But the strength of this community is the people within it. And these events are run mostly by volunteers, mostly by members of the community. And those are the kind of things that we should be proud of living in our town for having the kind of people that come out and do these kind of things. And I don't know of another community that has all of these different factions together and operating as a singular unit. And I think it speaks volumes about not us five, but of everybody else that is the heart and soul of this community. So I really appreciate that.
But I'll entertain a motion to approve resolution or consent agenda item N.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And then T, and Ellen, did you want to say?
I was just gonna say, thank the donors on item T and the organizers as well, plus the Corcoran Police Department. Ebert Construction, the Ebert Family, Northwest Area JCs, Corcoran Lions, Stanchion Bar, Target, and an anonymous donor that donated blankets as well. And as well as all the planning and prep that went into it. Thank you everyone that made that a success.
Yeah, I saw some pictures from Matt. Looked like it was a fun event. And
Yes, yes.
and another successful one, so that's awesome. I think that's a really cool one. So it's us, Medina, Rogers, who else is that?
Dayton and Rogers pair up and then you pair up with them.
Gotcha, perfect,
And Three Rivers.
And Three
Rivers offer too.
gotcha. Great job. Or entertain a motion to approve consent agenda item T.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Moving right along, no planning business. On to unfinished business, which we have a public hearing first. So we'll go into that, and then after that, we will I think I'll break up the public comment opportunities just in case. So after the public hearing, we'll have a public comment opportunity for B, C, and D, which are the budget related ones, and then we'll do a second one for E, F, and G, which are the non-budget related ones. So I will go ahead and make a motion, or I'll go ahead and open the public hearing. Anyone would like to speak? Do so now, otherwise I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Jay, wanna? Yeah, 9A.
So as we look at the general fund budget and property tax levy for 2024, from the last time that we set the levy, it was requested that staff take a look at ensuring that the budget was decreased in order to secure a tax rate of 42.122%, which is the previous year's tax rate. Staff was successful in doing that. And so that's where we are locking in the budget for 2024. Part of the way that we were able to reduce that was delaying some staffing positions until July, some staffing positions until 2025. And then there were some other trade-offs as well in terms of decreasing some of our hours for some of our part-time employees. But the council requested that we secure the tax rate, maintain what it was for 2022, or correction, 2023, and staff was able to go with that.
Great. Does council have any questions for Jay on that? Nothing?
Nice work.
Yeah.
I can't take any credit for it.
You can take
Done
some
before
credit.
I got here. So thanks to all the hard work staff did to make that happen.
And we know it's probably a sacrifice in some cases. People have been waiting for some support for a while, but we really appreciate sharpening the pencils.
Great job. Okay, well, let's see here. That was really the extent of 9B. We want,
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2023-104 adopting the 2024 budget and
tax levy.
tax levy as presented.
Second.
Sounds good. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, 9C, which is the 2024 full-time, part-time and seasonal wage schedule.
So you do have an updated attachment, which was revised. We had one position, in which there was a rounding error. And we corrected it, so there was by 1 cent. Grade 6, step 1, increased by 1 cent, and so that's why you have the updated revised attachment for the full-time, part-time seasonal wage schedule. Other than that, there's nothing additional other than what has been previously discussed.
Okay, any questions? Not, I'll entertain a motion to adopt resolution 2023-105, adopting the 2024 wage schedule for city employees.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. And then finally, budget wise is 9D, which is the 2024 fee schedule adoption.
So the fee schedule should be familiar. The only thing that I wanted to draw some attention to is that the water rates, when our water capabilities and that utility comes online, we will be beginning an RFQ in the second quarter to do a rate study to ensure that we are having appropriate rates for our users. And so that hasn't happened yet. So you can expect after we've been able to have a rate study, we're going to have to update the fee schedule later in 2024.
Any other?
Did the north side and south side both buy water from Maple Grove, correct?
Yes.
Of our town.
Yes.
Yeah,
Is the price per gallon the same for the north side and the south side?
Yes,
Okay,
and that's for through the end of 24. So in 25, when we turn the faucet on, we'll have to establish potentially different rates in 25. We'll have to have a
because we'll have our
discussion.
own water.
What's that? Because we'll be producing our own water, so we'll be able to set that rate differently if we want to. So to what City Administrator Tobin said, we'll review that in 24. So we'll be positioned for a conversation in 25, going into 25.
Do we have a sense for whether what we're currently paying is above what Maple Grove residents would pay? Or are they charging us what they would charge their own residents currently?
To clarify a question, do we get charged the same as a Maple Grove resident? We get charged more than a Maple Grove resident.
So it's plausible we may see lower cost when we
Yes.
have our own service.
Yes, and yeah, I would,
Well,
really the goal is to look at the rate study.
Yes, I
I don't want to comment either way. In theory, we should be lower. I don't know what they're accounting for in like their O and M plans. We'll have to have a discussion, lay all that out and how we want to capture it. If there's any conversation, we'll have to have a conversation of plan, whether it's reduce it a lot, whether there's some strategy there that we'll have to dig into once we have the rates. set.
well, if we looked at reducing it, we'd be looking at subsidizing basically, because we'd still be buying water from Maple Grove in that area.
yeah, it'd probably be maybe subsidizing and splitting the middle, and if we wanted to have a uniform rate across the city.
Charge the Northeast or to cover the cost difference. Potentially,
Essentially, yeah.
It's just,
Those sorts of variables should be part of the consideration in the RFQ, as we're trying to get experts to help us with the rate study. I've been through that a couple times before in past cities, and it's some hard calculus,
Yeah,
because of all the variables in the equation.
especially before we've had any water.
and it's full of just qualitative variables too, so. When do we, Did we get a grant for the second water tower?
We have state bonding money that goes into that, yeah. with 10
And then-
million.
When we do those financial calculations, one of the things we did was we wanted to make sure that when we built this water tower, that like if we didn't build one more house, we would still be okay financially. Was that using the current water usage or the water payment per gallon, keeping those variables equal?
saying.
Or did we reduce them when we did the calculus on whether the water tower would be viable without any houses?
That's a good question. I don't know offhand.
I believe we used our current water rates that are in our fee schedule for those assumptions, but keep in mind, there's kind of two components to your water system. There's the trunk line area charge, which is really intended to be your capital cost. And then the rates are really intended to be your O and M costs, operations and maintenance costs. That's how we set it up. So we looked at that, our area charges, which is the investment, and that's in the area charge divided by the billable acres. And then now we kind of have to refine the operation and maintenance side of things to better tell you what the rate will be. There's some discretion as a city and how you balance those. We've really separated those quite a bit. So it's really a capital cost by the area charge. And we'll be looking at O and M costs for the rates. And there's some blend there that can happen, but there's a distinction between those two. So when we adopted that plan at Councilmember Bottomans, we increased our area charge rates pretty significantly. If you look at our fee schedule. And that's why we did that. But keep in mind, right now, they're almost paying two. They're paying Maple Grove's area charges and our area charges, so the end result to our developers is not that much dramatically different, because right now they're paying Maple Grove charge and a Corcoran charge. Maybe too much detail, but
No,
there's some distinction there in what we're putting in.
We like the details. No surprises.
So overall, we're well positioned, but next step is to keep going and do the rate study to help us narrow that down and have further conversation how we want to manage our enterprise.
Makes sense.
Thank you.
I didn't see the rental application fee. Did I just miss that, or is that listed somewhere else?
You mean that for rental license?
Yeah.
Well. Yeah, you just missed it, I think. It's on the. Not the cover page, not the first page in there, the second page in there. Under rental licenses,
Other permits and licensing.
yep. See it?
There we go. Thank you.
It's just not new this year. So
Very
that's
good.
why it wasn't highlighted.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Okay. Then I will entertain a motion to adopt ordinance 2023 512, adopting the 2024 fee schedule.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Okay. And we'll go ahead and just double check to do that public comment opportunity for items 9E, F, and G, which is website maintenance options, the logo final design, and the city logo on the water tower discussion. I know they're exciting topics, not all at once.
I left my water tower design out on my countertop, so everyone at my house could see how cool a water.
There
tower
you
is.
go.
How many votes did you get?
When I ran for council or?
No, for your water tower design. Counter, none, one, five.
It was already decreed. There was no vote to take place.
Oh,
Okay, so we'll go into our 9E, which is website maintenance update and cost comparison. And Michelle, I think we're gonna Anyone or Jay?
Well, I'll start.
Perfect.
Yeah. So, it's my understanding that before I arrived, there was some discussion, at looking at some alternatives to our present Civic Live option for our website management. So staff did some legwork and brought forward the two proposals with Civic Plus and Granicus. We see that there's some significant financial cost that differs from our present cost. But one of the things that I do want to highlight is that, for 2024, the staff that would be implementing a new website alternative is going to be very occupied with elections. And so, Michelle is going to be pretty busy in 2024 with elections. And, we also, the decision was made in trying to reduce the budget to not bring the communications person on full time. And so, at this time, the plan would be to explore other options as we go into 2025, and continue to use the option that we have. Because it's the most cost effective, and also with the staff that we have right now, they're familiar with it. We do have every intention of trying to jazz it up a little bit. We're looking for some alternatives to ensure that we are providing the best information, leveraging all the capabilities of that platform as much as we can. And so staff's been talking about better ways to leverage what we've got, and just ask for consideration that 2025 will probably be a better option for staff availability to be able to implement an alternative that will allow us to increase our capabilities.
Makes sense. Quick question on the ARPA aspect of it, that was looked at with some of the other options. That would still potentially be an option next year still, wouldn't it? 2024, if it's allocated by 24.
Or a year, but we have to expend those. So when we talk about trying to leverage those in a long-term contract, we can't continue to use those.
Right, but like how it's laid out here, where there's the upfront cost paid by
Exactly, for
that.
the implementation expenses.
So
Yes.
if we were to look at it for 25 in 24, we could still, if we had the ARPA funds.
As long as we
Pull that
obligated
up.
them beforehand, it's my understanding that we'd be able to do that.
Okay, good deal.
Can I ask a question?
Please do.
Is there, so we're exchanging election preparation for technology implementation at City Hall, right? It sounds like, because the busyness of the election makes this the option we have to go with for the time being, because we just run out of time.
Actually, I'd say the decision to not bring the communications person full-time this year as part of the budget cut is really what made that decision.
Yeah,
So the maintaining the flat rate on the levy
yeah,
by not bringing that person on board, we don't have the increased capacity necessary. And the capacity that we have is occupied on a primary mission of elections.
is there a,
So it's not an exchange. It's always been a requirement that during an election year, the flow of the city clerk looks different than it does in a non-election year.
so if we didn't have the election, then Michelle would basically be this person? Sort of,
She'd be able to lend more to it,
yeah,
but this really is the next start of the conversation of a communications person to
Yeah.
manage it.
yeah, but we can't hire someone to do the election prep, can we?
Correct, we
Can't,
won't
okay,
do that.
that was really my question,
Okay.
instead of,
Yeah, we can't exchange that.
okay. Fair enough.
Okay. Any other questions? I think it makes sense to go with the staff recommendation of,
Big one too, just going with that staff recommendation, if I may, Mr. Mayor, I want to make sure that that next step is something that creates less work for staff, combine, find a software system that can add everything to it, if that makes sense, as far as we can look out, and all of us understand that it's not gonna be just a Band-Aid. It's gonna be something we're gonna be able to use going forward, and hopefully control staffing, if that makes sense, with the limited number of ads. If we have technology and software, we can do a lot more with sometimes less people. If we were looking at 2 or 3, we could do it with 1 with a good software system. Just emphasize that when you come back and say, these are the things that can combine into it. These are the cost savings, even though it may cost more, that network or that program or that software is gonna cost us more. This is what it's gonna be able to do for staff across the board. So,
Yeah, I think the easy example was always minutes, right? Where if there was a system that could automate minute generation,
yes,
it would save Michelle 6 hours a week or something like that, trying to go through those. The
exactly.
time that we spend yammering up here and make it coherent. There are other examples like that. We've always been interested as a council in trying to make the city as efficient as it can be.
Yeah.
So that we don't need to rely as much on brute force from staff to get things done.
And with spiral development, 12 months from now, the existing technology hopefully is going to continue to improve. And it might have some options that we didn't even recognize were options when we looked at it this year.
Mhm.
And so that's just the way of technology
Yeah.
continues to.
I think it'll be a good thing to make sure to bring back. Maybe earlier in the year when we're looking at preliminary budgets for 25 and over the summer or at some point to take a look at this and whatever else, like you just mentioned, comes up. But I also think for the time being, it makes sense to go with the staff recommendation to continue as is and try to find some ways to tweak it to get the most out of it for the year and then kind of reevaluate. So I'll make a motion to authorize staff to continue utilizing Civic Live website maintenance software at $1,802.50 for 2024.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. 9F, logo final design. Kathy?
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Kathy Hughes, Administrative Services Director. Back on April 14th, 2022, City Council requested staff to write a proposal for simplifying the city of Corcoran's current city logo. Michelle, can you, thank you. So over a period of months in 2023, staff worked with council's chosen designer, which was 99 Designs, to create a logo draft. And in November, our community was given the opportunity to comment on 5 logos that were chosen by council. November 9th, council chose the final design, and a subcommittee was chosen to include the mayor and Councilor Nichols. We tweaked a few things on the final design, and this is the final version of it. The city has taken ownership of the logo, but the designer I have been in communication with is definitely able to make any minor edits that anybody would like from the meeting tonight. The next phase will be bringing staff back together to create a branding plan to bring back to City Council. I'm hoping Q1 2024. We'll put that together for everybody. But can you guys make it bigger? Is that an option?
Yes.
Kathy, is this person chosen to remain anonymous?
I don't know. I haven't asked that. I haven't asked if they want credit. Through 99 Designs, it's a contest and they won the
Yeah.
contest, so they get, it's a payment to them. I have not asked what the dollar amount is or anything.
Yeah.
And I
Okay.
haven't asked if they want to be recognized. I can ask.
Yeah, might as well.
Yeah.
I think we're happy to give them the recognition for their work if they want it.
Yeah, or yeah,
The resolution.
it's gonna be on our water tower for
Right,
100 years.
yeah, because it's gonna be on a lot of things for.
I wish the paint would last that long.
Yeah.
And just to kind of clarify a few things with the logo for, I guess, for council and for the public. The green and black options there are just kind of used to show how we could have like a single color. All white logo that could go on anything. I don't know why specifically that green and black were chosen. But like the example, I could see that single color one going on is like our dark blue snowplows. Where that putting the other blues and greens on that would kind of look weird. So you'd probably do like the black one, but with just the blue background of the vehicle.
Yeah.
And it could go on any number of things. And then for things like probably letterhead for our Corcoran jackets, and hopefully we'll have some other gear that will be available for purchase. Be like on the white background or black background, depending on the color of the shirt, or you could also do the single color ones there. And yeah, things like the water tower would likely be like the white one. So gives us some versatility with the logo while still kind of keeping a lot of the similar traits of, there's a lot, if you really look in depth at our existing logo and this one, there's a lot of influence drawn from it. But kind of just in a modern way that'll be a little easier to reproduce on all the stuff we're gonna need to put it on in the next several years, long time, so. If we have any other questions or feedback or changes we want to make, now's the time, otherwise we can accept it and get to go. Yeah,
One, if you could change it to a duck instead of a loon.
It's supposed to be.
it is supposed to be a
Does it look
duck.
like a loon?
It's got a pointy nose on that top one, so I don't know of very many loons out in our general vicinity here.
That's
And
a good catch.
just,
Yeah, I'll fix that. Well, I won't, but the designer will.
yep,
I'll come up with the silhouette.
Could be a duck with its head pointed down.
it could be, but it's just.
That's kinda what I
the
thought.
top one,
Good catch.
I'm sorry, I'm a duck hunter.
Hey,
and
no,
I
that's-
don't hunt loons, I get in trouble. for
You
that.
would
Why
not, if we didn't catch
Like
that,
chicken.
you would not be the
Yeah,
only
like
person
Digger.
to say it.
Anyhow,
A little tough.
that up close, it looks more like a duck, thank you, but
So if there's anything that could be done to
round that beak off a little
duckify
bit.
it a little more, perfect.
Did we always have the name of the town going beyond the circle? Is that when
It was a hexagon before,
Oh,
Yeah,
which made it look different.
It's like a Corcoran burger.
Yeah,
And if you want Corcoran's brought
like
in a
within
little
the-
bit, we can do that too.
I don't know if that aids in anything and as far as putting it on stuff or not. I'm like John, design isn't my thing.
Honestly, if we owned the logo and we wanted to try that on something where we just shrunk the text, that would be pretty easy to do. And could make that change in the future if we wanted to, but. So, cause
Yeah.
it wouldn't, we don't really need any graphic design
Is that the,
skill.
if you're gonna change it, you have to change it before you paint it on.
Well,
something
right,
else.
right,
Yeah.
for sure.
Otherwise, looks
Michelle,
good.
if you, or could you guys scroll down to the ones at the bottom,
Sure.
just to show? So the one on the far left, the black background. See how it looks so different with the white lettering
Mhm.
and Corcoran?
mhm.
Imagine that it's a little bit easier to visualize. If you shrunk Corcoran down, it might just look like a big circle ball,
Yeah,
especially since you don't have an outline.
Yes.
So then if you had the outline and shrunk Corcoran, it might look like a beach ball.
It truly would look like a Corcoran burger.
so my question is, one of the issues we have with the old logo and the reason we were going after a new logo had to do with scalability and what we put it on. So with all the color palettes in here and the detail, is it scalable?
I
think
would
so.
say it's much better than the current one that we have. How scalable it will be depending on where we have things done and printed. I think that's where the mayor had mentioned the bottom ones might be helpful for that purpose.
I'm just thinking about like park signs and things like that, where we're putting it on, smaller things or it's detailed in wood or whatever. Is it worth going down a test route with hiring someone to test it on some various samples?
Like test the different versions.
Yeah, the different versions, I envisioned the one at the very top to be the one that's probably gonna be the most used,
Mhm.
especially if you're putting out like park signs and stuff.
Yep.
So I'd be curious to know what that looks like when you try to put it on different types of material and different sizes and.
Yeah, I
Not
think,
that I'm the expert at this, but I think with technology these days, they can screen something on easier now than they could when we had our logo done how many years ago, but.
Yeah, and it's
I
a little
could get
more,
tests done.
it's a little more spread out too than the existing logo is. I think some of the difficulty was the number of colors and,
Yeah.
and how close they were.
Yeah.
Whereas this is like 2 shades of green, 3 shades of green, kind of spread out, black, white, blue.
I
yellow.
think the other piece of it is the existing logo is so long
Mhm.
with the aspect ratio, when you try to slot that into whatever space you're working in, all the features in the graphic get really, really shrunk
Yeah,
because it's not got a uniform aspect ratio like this one would. I think it should be better, but certainly worth trying.
The
Yeah.
details pop up this in a one-dimensional color too, you know, like this, just black and white. I've seen some versions of the present logo where they've tried to do that and everything gets kind of blurry.
yeah. Yeah, so yeah, I think with the duck comment
Fix the
and
beat.
duck tweak,
Duck.
other than that,
Yep.
I'll entertain a motion to accept final design pending duck tweak. And direct staff to move forward with developing a brand strategy.
Thank you.
Got a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Okay. And then on to city logo for the water tower, which kind of kicked off this whole thing in the first place, or at least got us into gear on it.
You know when the water tower's done?
Kevin, do you know when the water tower's done?
When it's painted and it's
it-
complete.
Will likely be
End of next year?
early fourth quarter next year, it's probably slightly ahead of the treatment plant, but like be fall next year.
All right.
Will we get a tour of both facilities before they go online?
Yeah, I think.
Or what?
I'd love that.
Talking with Jay that we didn't really have I didn't do a good job. We didn't have like a groundbreaking for either of the sites, so we should do I don't know what the term would be, but we should have
And a grand
a
opening.
grand opening.
Christening, like get a bottle of champagne and smack it up against the water tower. Like
Who's
they
gonna
do with
drink the
boats.
first glass of water is the real question.
There you go.
So, yeah, you will have like informal tours, and as it gets closer, I'm sure if you're interested, we can arrange something.
That'd be great.
I was up in that crane on Sunday afternoon.
On the water tower?
Yeah.
Were you supposed to be?
No, I'm just kidding.
It is getting up there though. I mean, pretty much the structure is built up to like the tank, isn't it?
Pedestal's
I think they're
done, right?
waiting and, well, I think it's kind of wrapping up for the winter. They made good progress and they're both making good progress.
Well, who would have thought we'd be able to do this level of outdoor stuff in
Yeah,
December?
they actually were working on
I
something.
believe it, yeah. So to the topic, the paint. We have the kind of the two options. They're just plain letter Corcoran or the new logo. And if I understand this right, Kevin, budgeted placeholder number was 25,000. So either way, we're coming in under budget.
Yeah,
Oh, sorry.
I was gonna say, yeah, we have a allowance of 25,000. So we can use that however we want. If we go over 25,000, technically it's a change order, but I think I would recommend getting what you want because we're close enough. You know, that's a price per one side, so there was some debate early on, do you want one or a logo on each side, what direction is it facing? So this is a price for one logo or one letter. I think if you double those, you could theoretically do, two logos if you wanted to and just come in slightly over the 25,000.
Okay.
Right. And I was gonna look, so Maple Grove's water tower, that's quite a bit bigger, the tank itself, and they have the leaf on both sides and then Maple Grove on both sides. Which is a lot, and I don't think the size of this tank is the same.
I think this one might be the same size on the
Same,
bowl up.
okay.
Yeah.
So then-
finished them, but-
You could do more designs, more words. But then the cost will change.
Well, I kind of came into this thinking the second option, the new logo that we picked. And I hadn't thought too much about the option of a second side. But,
Which direction is it gonna be?
well, I think that's what would need to figure out. I'd imagine we want one side kind of facing 30.
Yeah.
We have in the plan basically facing the intersection of County Road 30, so kind of faces southeast,
30 and,
116, excuse me.
okay.
So no one will actually see the Corcoran side.
So.
If
your-
we had
your
if
options
we did
are-
one of each, you mean?
Yeah, your options are, you can have just the word Corcoran, you can have just the logo, you could have a combination of all of them. But then that will affect your cost. So if you just chose the word Corcoran, it would only cost $3,500 for one word Corcoran. If you chose the logo, it's $13,760 for one logo. So if you want it on two sides, it's twice that much.
It'd be just over.
I like the idea of the shape, one logo facing 116 and 30.
Just the one logo?
Yeah, that one on the bottom right, but
Yeah,
that'd be.
okay, and then nothing on the other side, not
I
text?
don't know, there's no one over there.
Yeah.
And
Well, there's not,
it's facing a neighborhood
yeah, I
Rather
don't know if
than-
there's a ton of people that would be
intersection.
looking at it. It's, you know, Bellwether's up there, there's a couple existing neighborhoods, but I don't know that it's in like a site,
Yeah,
it's kind of off.
You would see it as you're headed west on 30, right? Or north on 116, that's the only direction you would
Yes.
see it.
It'll be the best view, so. Yeah, as it's to the southeast, correct?
And then I guess is there value to having it? Anything facing the north identifying? Probably not.
How long is the name if you wrap it around?
And could you do like one of each? Like one side,
So if you look at the top picture of the tank,
It's like half, it's
Yeah.
like a diameter, so you probably couldn't fit more than two unless you shrunk the lettering. So like one on each side,
So it'd go almost halfway around.
probably like a quarter of the way around, but it would look weird if you did like 4 or 3.
Yeah.
3 would probably be max and. If we were gonna go that route, we could take some ideas back and just kind of have a little bit better picture for you.
and would it change the price if we shrunk any of
I
it?
think it might a little bit, but not, to me, not significant enough. I think you wanna get what you want. We're in that price range of 25,000. We can get some savings, but I think you're.
In my mind, the one logo facing the intersection is good. Two ways for me to look at it. Another one in the upper northeast quadrant. And maybe wrap slightly to straight north, and then another one in the southwest quadrant. Almost facing west, if that makes sense. So about where the arrow is right now, but Corcoran there, Corcoran in the upper right hand. And then, oh, sure. That's reflection. So a Corcoran from here to here facing north on 116. And then a Corcoran here on anyone coming in east or coming from the west. That makes sense?
from the west, so down 30
Down
towards the
30
city.
towards town. And then this one right where it's at. The other thing too, of the way I see it. What color is the water tower gonna be? It's gonna be more white, beige, what color is that? Cause I'd like something that. There's not a color that blends, you could do blue, you could do. Clouds, I'd like it, so it just kind of blends it. It doesn't
Those
exist.
Disney paint colors.
wait, if you had it on, if you had Corcoran on, like you mentioned,
Right here
and right there,
and right here.
if looked at it from the right angle, it would say Ranker, which I think would be a perfect emblem of Corcoran and our attitude.
So with John's mindset, I do with one, I do the one.
I don't know that you would see it coming down 116, honestly.
Yeah, because it's kind of far off to the right.
It's
there.
going off to the right, there's gonna be
It's
large
not really
Buildings there.
There was one thing, when we did the Parks and Trails visit to the Bellwether Park for planning last year. One of the ideas that we talked about with residents in that neighborhood was like a fire tower, like an observation tower they could climb up and see. So they'll have a prime view of the water tower. It might be kind of cool to have the Corcoran logo facing the Bellwether Park, if we wanted to do two.
We're talking about a fire tower in the Bellwether Park.
This is the concept.
All right.
The other thing we can keep in mind too is, how often do these need to be repainted? Like every 10 years, something like that?
I had that in my notes. I think it's between 10 and 20.
If water towers about
Presumably if-
15 is
if
what they've
in-
been at.
10 years, we decided, oh, we really should have painted this one on this side too. I'm assuming we could probably add it at that point. Wouldn't be ideal, but doable.
You do a hybrid of this on the most visible side and this on the less trafficked side, just
Mhm.
brand it, because this is a quarter of the cost.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking is. The logo in the corner that was discussed or recommended by staff, the 30-116 intersection kind of facing that way.
Yeah.
And then maybe the text on the opposite.
There
Yeah, well, then there's really no one
or there.
back there. I guess it would either have to be kind of left quadrant. Or. Cause if you go to the northwest, there's really no one looking from the northwest at the water tower.
You don't have a picture of the site location of the water tower on it, do you, from overhead?
No, maybe, I mean, we can select the background, we can do all that, I don't, maybe would make it a suggestion that the subcommittee that was working the logo, maybe. Look at the water tower and you can look through all the information we have for background options and. Can help us bring back a conversation, I don't really want us to not be confident in this decision, so. I think it's not gonna be painted until June. I'd like to make a decision just so we can check the box and move on, but. I think we wanna get it right, so I would,
And maybe going to the site and taking pictures of the actual water tower from the roads themselves and getting that visual for you might be helpful in bringing that back to council.
I think
Just
that-
drive-
We have time.
yeah,
You think what?
in driving through the city, you can
Yeah.
actually,
I can work.
you'll be able to see this from further away than you think. So I've driven on 10 and looked across and it looks like a silo right now, kind of.
Yeah.
But when you put a big tank on it, I think it's gonna have broader visibility than we're potentially realizing here, so.
Okay.
I guess I'd maybe suggest in the spring. So,
And painting is when?
I think it needs to be painted. We
Sure.
can verify this. I think it needs to be painted before it goes up, but.
Okay.
In the future, they would paint up there, but that's more expensive when they put the drape up, so it'll come painted, so unfortunately, we won't be able to see it. And then put the logo on, but I think we can dial that in a little bit more and have some better graphics. So
Once it's painted, can you rotate it 45 degrees to the west?
Those are all good questions.
Grab
I'll
it,
just have it
spin.
spin.
Yeah.
Yeah, constant
Okay, next week,
rotating.
Let's
It's all a lot of issues.
That's in the budget, yeah.
You have like a flag, it just rotates
Spin
around.
water tank.
Yeah,
We'll
lighted,
work on some good visuals for you. to make
sounds
this
good.
decision
Should, we-
bring
and
back.
Kevin, did you suggest a subcommittee or
Well-
any logo subcommittee?
Well, I kind of maybe extend it a little bit,
There was a logo subcommittee, yeah.
I was thinking, or however you
That work
guys
for
would
you?
like to approach it.
That work for everyone
I'm
else?
fine with it.
I should have nothing to do with this decision. I'll probably abstain. This is not my thing.
Fair enough. So yeah, Jeremy and I will continue on in the retooled logo subcommittee and then, should I make a motion to table this to, we don't know exactly when that will be, but I'll make a motion to table this to a future meeting to be determined by staff.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. On to new business. We have public comment opportunity for items 10A through E. So if you want to walk through, if anyone would like to speak on that, otherwise we will jump into 10A. I think we're good, so. 10A, which is a recycling forgiveness request, and Matt.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So during nearing the end of my term as interim administrator, we did receive a request to forgive recycling fees for a property on County Road 50. The city has previously heard some of those requests for forgiveness of that fee. Historically, in the past, the city has not forgiven those fees because otherwise the city would be on the hook for those fees. We've had a number of different circumstances for reasons why people have requested, either not here for part of the year or the property was vacant for some reason or another. But at the end of the day, based on the Hennepin County ordinance, every property is required to have recycling, therefore incurs a fee. So it's not that the city takes any profit or anything from this. It really relates back to the Hennepin County ordinance requiring those properties to have recycling, and the unfortunate reality that if they don't pay it, then the rest of the taxpayers end up paying it through the city budget. So.
Yep, question.
This request, the amount is
Yeah.
anticipated to be $53.16 for next year.
What's a recourse if we just said we're not gonna require a city to have recycling?
At this
We
point,
just said forget it.
I think we'd want to talk to our city attorney. about
Yeah.
what the
I'm just
county might
asking
do.
hypothetically.
I think that could be maybe a discussion. I don't know what the recourse would be. I'm sure they'd come up with something.
Why do we have, okay, so why do we have the authority to forgive something that's required by another governmental unit?
We'd be paying it.
No, I know.
So that would be.
So if
the
somebody
forgiving
doesn't
would
want
be-
to pay their state taxes, they can come to the city council and say, we don't want to pay state taxes this year as
they'd
mandated by
be-
the state of Minnesota.
They'd
So
forfeit their,
would you guys mind paying my state taxes? I don't know why we'd even look at something like this, because it's not our policy, period. Why would somebody, if it's a policy onto our citizens from another governmental entity, why is it that we even accept a forgiveness request? It's
We're
not our
the
policy.
conduit for that. So we would end up paying the Hennepin County fees. So we're the assessing body for those recycling fees. So
I'm sympathetic to it completely. And, there are about half of the people that in our city that would probably just rather not have recycling cans and recycle on their own or do their own thing, so. I'm sorry to the person, I sympathize with them, but I don't even think we should ever have these come before us.
Yep, and I think that's something that's certainly reasonable that was brought forward because that was what was done in the past, but I think giving staff direction to not bring these to council is perfectly reasonable. You guys understand the topic, understand the issue, and
We've never accepted one.
I thought we had one in the past where somebody was charged a fee, but it was a vacant lot.
I think we have.
Well, that's different. There's not even a host
Right.
But I think maybe
But it
this
still had to come
process
before
would
us.
still have to come before us for that. So it'd be the determination of, if this was not a livable lot or something. Which
I
is
mean,
hard for us.
there. Whatever the Hennepin County policy is.
Right.
policy. Hennepin County doesn't require vacant lots to have recycling.
True.
So we were just like saying, yeah, that makes sense.
We were just catching an oversight in it.
But we went to Hennepin County and said, by the way, you're making these people have,
Mhm.
we weren't forgiving anything. That wasn't our authority.
Yeah.
You do raise a helpful question, though. Is that the property owner's responsibility to go to Hennepin County, or is it our responsibility to go to Hennepin County?
I think it's a different entity's policy. So we shouldn't be interpreters of the policy or transmittal of somebody's not liking the policy. I think we have to stay out of it. We
To be
only can
frank, I
be
don't
the
think
conduit.
they're gonna listen to us or the.
So I think so it's uncomfortable for us, even if we're sympathetic, we can't do a thing about it. Other than to eat their fees, which is totally not fair to everybody else in Corcoran. So I would make a motion that we don't ever. That these kind of requests don't get brought before council because it's not something we can do and it's not our policy.
Yeah, I think it could be handled at the staff level of. If it's,
We can certainly handle that in the future, but we may have those one-offs that you will want to talk with, like you mentioned, the vacant lot,
Mhm.
in which, just trying to iron that out, we might need some help with that, in those unique circumstances, but otherwise, Staff is clear, guidance is to not bring these forward in the future.
Well, I only made a
Did
motion.
you make the motion? Okay. Do we have a second on John's motion?
I'll second that.
Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
So his motion was on this. To deny it, your motion was to deny this,
Actually, I only made a motion
Yeah,
to accept these again.
For
So
future.
so we need to make.
So how about, does anyone want to make a motion on the request itself?
I'll make a motion to apologetically deny the forgiveness request.
Sounds good. Do we have a
Because it
second?
is, because on the grounds that is not our policy.
Understood.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. On to 10B, earned, safe and sick time policy process.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Effective January 1st, 2024, Minnesota's earned sick and safe time law requires employers to provide paid leave to employees who work in the state. Sick and safe time is paid leave that can be used for multiple reasons, including when an employee is sick, to care for sick family members, or to seek assistance if an employee or the family member has experienced domestic abuse, sexual assault, or stalking. So the law applies to all employees performing work at least 80 hours in a year. So they have to work 80 hours before the time will start accruing. This truly affects our part-time and our seasonal employees the most. For example, our snowplow drivers, communication assistant, election judge, police officers, community service officer, and any seasonal employees. Mostly we have seasonal ice rink attendants, we have seasonal at Public Works. They will earn 1 hour of ESST, earned sick and safe time, for every 30 hours work, up to a maximum accrual of 48 hours per calendar year. So we've been working with our payroll system, which is ADP, to reflect the earned time and the used time. That's one thing by law we have to have in our system. Full-time employees, staff work very closely with the League of Minnesota Cities and our city attorney to create the attached policy. But for full-time employees, it's not an extra 48 hours of time that they earn. So we are cross-designating our PTO. So the first 48 hours of PTO will be cross-designated as earned sick and safe time. So when they use the time, that's the cross-designation. One piece with earned sick and safe time, the law states we do not have to pay the time out. With our PTO policy, employees currently can carry over 1 full year of PTO. So for example, if you accrue 200 hours of PTO in a year, you get to carry that over to the next year. You can't accrue more. If we cross-designate the earned sick and safe time with our PTO, they will get that time paid out. It's just part of their PTO time. We're not taking away from PTO time. And we are not front loading any time on people's balances. That would be very costly to the city. So we are meeting the statutory requirements. And we have drafted a policy that if you approve it today, we will add it to our employee handbook.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Kathy? Yeah, this is one of the several laws passed. this
Yeah,
past
there's
session.
not, we couldn't deny, we couldn't say no to this anyways, could we?
I mean, there's potential small changes that I think Kathy touched on a little bit. You could do things in a different way. I think this is probably the way that is the most fiscally responsible way to do it. But there are a couple options in terms of how you distribute the hours and stuff. But essentially, no, most of it is
Yeah.
something we have to.
Can I make a motion?
Yes, you can.
Can I make a motion that we approve the earned sick and safe time policy?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin.
10C, MS4 Stormwater Pollution Prevention Plan, Public Input Opportunity. And Kevin, do you have some slides for this? And then I'll toss it over to you, however you wanted to manage the public input aspect of it.
There is a presentation, so thank you, Mayor. This public input opportunity is really one of the requirements we have as part of our MS4 permit. So there has to be kind of a formal opportunity, not a public hearing, but just a formal way to receive comments. That's what this agenda item is, staff report. Historically, we've done it at country days and other community events, but we just thought it'd be clear in our permit if we had it as a staff report. So the presentation that was included in the packet is really a very high level kind of synopsis of the program. This is the same presentation that we've used previously. So I'll skim through it. If you want me to go in more detail, I'd be happy to. But essentially the task here today is just to allow anyone to ask a question or provide comment on it. It is available on the website year round. In the last 2 years, I've not received an email comment about it. So this is again, another opportunity to make sure we're in compliance with the permit. So if you want to flip to the next slide, please. So the MS4 permit is really came out of the Federal Clean Water Act. Next slide. And it's really essentially passed down through the EPA, excuse me, and then in the state of Minnesota, it's the MPCA. Because we're a city and more than 5,000 people were required to hold this permit. And really they push that down onto us for us to administer. So we have some obligations, developers have obligations. Anyone moving no more than half of an acre really has obligations and permitting requirements. So this is all absorbed in our land disturbance permit and our permitting process. Next slide. Here's just a bunch of different examples of what we look for: illicit discharge, erosion, sediment control. Next slide, please. They call them MCMs, minimum control measures, with like 6 different sections of the permits that we're responsible for. Next slide. Here's kind of the timeline. So about 2 years ago, they updated the MS4 permit, broader permits, usually between a 5 and 7 year permit. And essentially what that does is it set marks for cities like us to implement. So we have until 3rd quarter this year to implement some strategies that we outlined 18 months ago. And we're on that path to achieving that. Some of the things we looked at was the snow and ice policy, formalizing that policy. We did some ordinance amendments about salt storage over the last year. So about every 3 months, we try to target bringing you something. It's absorbed in kind of our stormwater engineering line item is how we pay for it. So we just spread those over the time that we have to implement them. So there'll be more coming in 2024, but that's kind of the action plan that was approved 18 months ago. Next slide, please. And then, so there's my information. It's on the website. If anyone has any questions, they can reach out to me. If they want to see the permit, it's 60, 78 pages, pretty technical, but it's available for the public if they would like to review it. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions for Kevin? Pretty good.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you.
On to item 10D, which is the strategic planning session discussion, and it sounds like maybe there's a couple additional options that came kind of last minute. So Jay, if you want to go over those.
So Mayor and Council, as I looked at the way this body has handled this in the past, I tried to follow precedent and I reached out to the last facilitator. Not hearing from that facilitator right away, I reached out to another facilitator. So in your packet, you'd see 2 proposals from 2 facilitators. And then as I've been talking with the council members this past week, I've discovered that not everybody would be available on the proposed date of January 23rd. So I went back to those facilitators and asked for alternative dates. And one of them doesn't have another date until mid-February. And then the other has very limited ability at the beginning of January. So in talking with some of you, a third option is possible. And that would be to use the goals baseline for 2023, revisit those and modify those in a work session on January 11th prior to our council meeting. So at this point, because I haven't been able to get the facilitators in a timeline that would allow us to really do some goal setting for 2024 in a timely fashion, moving too late into the middle of the first quarter, and then looking at what was established for 2023 and some work that could still be done, closing up some of those goals that were set and tweaking some of those. Staff's recommendation at this point would be internal staff session on January 11th as a work session, not internal, a work session on January 11th with council and staff working what has been established as precedent in 2023 and tweaking it for 2024. That's the recommendation.
Thank you. So no facilitator, just we did.
No facilitator, no cost. It allows us, there's still some work from the 2023 work plan. And there's a lot of different reasons for that as we've had transitions in some key roles. And then just the business of government work sometimes doesn't happen on our timelines. So I think there's still enough work for us to do in 2024 to follow through on some of the 2023 goal setting. And we can add to it based on the existing framework of the strategic plan as needed.
And with kind of the consistency on council, I think we probably would have, we have a general idea of how those have gone. And I think some of the benefit of having an outside facilitator, which I do like when it's an option, like was initially brought up, at least to me, by Brad, in that he liked having someone from outside the organization being able to help council, but also to help staff in, so they're not kind of self-facilitating it, but you're about as outside as you can be to the organization coming in. So I think you'll be able to kind of help, you know, do both roles there, I think pretty well. So I'd be fine with that.
Are you okay with that?
Yeah,
I think as a bridging strategy, it's our best option. I don't want to delay goal setting. I think that does a disservice both to you and casting what you want to see for 24 and to staff in terms of starting to put those pieces in play. The longer we wait into the year, the harder it is to start working strategically. Recognizing that neither of the facilitators that I wanted to are available in the timeline that we wanted to, it seems like the best option.
I agree with trying to get it in early. One area that I think would be valuable for you, if we had more than just a work session, is getting feedback from each counselor as to what our vision has been. I think tactically we can cover the elements in the hour and a half of a work session. I don't think you're gonna get the background that you might get in a fuller planning session, but we could probably make that up in pre-meetings. Maybe one-on-ones could be used for that prior to the 11th, and you can get a sense from each of us where we're coming from and why the strategies have been what they are, so that coming into the 11th, you're already up to speed.
That would be really helpful. I pulled the 2022 strategic plan, which has more detail than the goal setting did. So sitting down with that as a baseline and getting your feedback on your particular visions would be extremely helpful.
and maybe if we could get copies of the anything we have for 2022 and 2023 sent out with the packet for that work session, just so we have something concrete that we can go back and look at for reference.
And even prior to the work session there, if it's okay, I'll send it out so
Yeah,
that when we
that'd be
do
great.
have our one-on-ones, it can be a topic of discussion.
That'd be fantastic. Everyone good with that?
I have a couple questions.
Go for it.
One is I will not be here January 11th.
Okay.
100% for certain. But a lot of our time is spent in these facilitated conversations. We've done goal vision and all that stuff is good for any organization. Or not, we've done mission, vision, values, and that usually takes a long time. And then we start writing our goals and then we put them on a whiteboard and we kind of vote on them and start. We walk through our goals with the other city council members and then start narrowing them down and combining them if we have to or whatever. And so I would suggest before, like, we don't get, I would suggest We don't just arrive at these work sessions and then try to figure out what our goals are
Mhm.
as individual city council members. Like, have that stuff done. And then we can put them on a board and then start narrowing them down or lobbying for them or whatever.
I think the more prep everyone can do after that would, the better it'll be, for sure.
And I'll also be working with staff as we've received some feedback already from the planning commission on some of their goals. So that allows us to bring that feedback to you. I will have the Parks and Rec Commission meeting tomorrow night. So that we're getting other feedback mechanisms, as well as internal staff feedback. As I do those one-on-ones with you to help shape your goals.
Okay, that's good. That's it.
Okay, perfect.
My big thing on this is just a check and adjust, I'm gonna call it. Of here were our goals for 2023. What have we done? What have we completed? What's left?
What do we want to add to it?
If we want to add, I'd like to add things that are truly pertinent that we all agree to. But the 3 years I've been up here, we've kind of changed. We've got to kind of stop moving the target for a little bit and just check and adjust where we're at. And then add if is real. So I don't want to spend all that time doing rewriting, reprioritizing those kind of things. These are our priorities. This is what we were trying to do. This is what we got accomplished. Now reprioritize what's left on the list that's existing. So that's my thoughts on it.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. And if it's something that's such a,
If it's big,
if it's a big thing
We
that
talk
that
about
we
it.
truly like
You got
and,
it.
and you know, we have that hour and a half meeting to pitch it
Yep.
to the rest of the council. And if it's, you know, if it's a big deal, I think there'd be, or a good issue that we want to take up, I think there'd be support for it and we'd add it to the list and
yeah,
keep going.
Yeah, and we can remove things off the list,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
That are no longer priorities for us.
We
For
can.
whatever reason.
I think last year there was a bunch of things that were done
Mhm.
through the day-to-day operations and stuff. So I mean, we took off stuff that wasn't even on our priority list. I
Yep.
remember 3 or 4 things, so.
So I think that will work and I think we can handle, so it's kind of declining the separate facilitated goal setting session. And can handle calling that meeting in 10E. Here for that would be on the 11th at 5:30.
Well, that would be a follow-up, Mayor, because the next one, 10E, is the proposed work sessions for the first quarter.
Mhm.
And what is the best date to have that work session? You know, we threw out a couple days in the work session memo there for 10E and proposed the 23rd of January, but I recognize that didn't work for folks. And we just heard that a couple on the bottom one won't be available on the 11th. Is there a date that everybody would be able to attend? That would be a question.
23rd is a Tuesday.
The 23rd was a Tuesday, and we already know that not everybody could be there. We just proposed a work session before the 11th.
Is it a Tuesday meeting that week?
No, it was not. It was
Oh.
just, that's when the reason that date came up is because that's when the facilitators were available.
What about before the 25th, the work session before the council meeting?
I will be out from the 14th through the 25th.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
So John's out one of those, Jeremy's out the other.
The 9th? Would
It's not
that
gonna be on there.
Of January?
of January?
I am out the 5th through the 13th. So Jeremy and I will shake hands at the airport and then,
What, Tuesday the 30th?
I could do the 13th, if you want to do it on a Saturday,
wait, of January?
Yeah.
No, I'm out.
that's when you're, okay.
Tuesday the 30th. Work in theory.
So
What
I
about the
could do
first
as an
week in
interim, as we're waiting.
First
for
week in
final-
January probably for me would be tough.
When are you?
I don't know yet, sometime in the next week,
Okay.
hopefully.
There won't be much difference anytime in January, to be honest, once that.
I know,
Event occurs.
there's right now, there's a small chance that if she can't get in, that, she could go into January before she goes into labor, so we won't know until we know. But potentially you said you're leaving the 5th? We could look at the 3rd and kind of make it if that's works better for everyone else.
Right here, the third.
Of January?
Isn't that what Jeremy said?
Oh, I thought you said you're,
I mean, I could,
It might be hard to prep that soon with the holiday or anything.
yeah,
People have their minds elsewhere.
if we waited another one, then we might hold the facilitator potentially.
sorry, Jay.
In my
Well-
mind, that we don't need a facilitator this year,
No, I don't
regardless
think
of what they would
If,
think.
if, the mayor and council could get a chance to look at it, as I'm looking, we're gonna be, a lot of folks are out after Christmas, so I will have some space to work on it here
Mhm.
to prep as staff. If I get the opportunity to connect with you all before the 3rd, like we talked about those one-on-ones, so it's a productive time. Do we have any conflicts that would inhibit our ability to execute on the 3rd? So the 3rd, we can make that work, if that works for you all.
Pretty good, sir.
Works for me.
I would prefer to do it earlier rather than later, because then that allows us to have staff start doing their work plans for
What time are you thinking?
what time.
I was thinking probably like 5 or 5:30. No need to do it at 7, I don't think.
No.
I know it's a Wednesday,
Yes.
I can make 5:30, I don't think I can make 5.
Okay.
And what's the end time?
7, if we're doing like a work session.
Well,
Right.
Wednesday, there's no concert.
No, we could go longer, but
Wait, no.
if we were thinking of it as like a work session,
Stay focused.
yeah.
You're done.
So
Want to do
plan with from 5:30 to 7 on the 3rd, with the potential of, if we don't get all that work done, you might be able to go a little bit longer, but that's not the intention.
Yeah. So I'll go ahead and call that work session on the 3rd for strategic planning at 5:30 to 7. And then regarding the other items in 10E, so the January 23rd one, we settled on the 3rd. So the February 8th and March 14th. Council meetings just prior to them met with 5:30 work sessions. The first one for the police department LPR camera discussion. And Matt, I think, are they coming in to present?
Yes.
Okay, some of those.
Who's coming in to present?
The company that we've talked about that has those plate reading cameras.
We'll have to see if they're available for that, but I think this one was at least planned to be the staff plan to,
Okay,
that have been developing what our rollout would be and seeing how that meshes with what your strategic goal was and then with the.
gotcha.
Don't we want to have a council discussion whether we like the idea of those period before we have a specific company come out and talk to it?
Well, I guess we're not having a specific company come out on that date.
Oh,
We
okay,
can do just staff that day and follow it up with that. If you.
fair enough.
With their.
I think the
what they share.
thinking was to try to get a better understanding of exactly how they work and what they do. But I know Matt knows that, so he can try to explain it to us there. But does that date and time work?
Well, I think we should vote as to whether we have.
Okay.
I'll make a motion, we don't entertain cameras like that in our city.
Okay, do we have a second? Going once,
Motion dies.
motion dies for lack of a second.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, before we, can we close out 10D on the strategic planning session? We didn't have a motion on that. Just to make sure that we close that one out. So my understanding is that we will go with what I listed as option 2. And then it just is a difference of date.
Okay,
So it's.
sorry, yeah, I meant to do that by calling it an E, which I already did, but we can go back and I'll entertain a motion to direct staff to utilize themselves and council members to coordinate goal setting session and kind of an internal one as we laid out on January 3rd, 5:30 to 7, 2024.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Have that one called, so we had the discussion on not having that topic on the 8th that did not died for lack of a second. Does the date and time work for everyone else? February 8th, which is first Thursday, I'm assuming.
It's
Not
out.
up there.
What is that, February 8th?
Yeah, this would be the first February meeting. Let's see. John's looking at us.
I guess it works for me.
And it, as long as we have a quorum, I think it's fine. Even if not everyone can make it. And then how about March 14th at 5:30, and that's to review interest
Wait,
options.
can we do one at a time? Vote one at a time?
Sure. We did,
We did January, so I'll move that we hold a work session February 8th at 5:30.
Second.
any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I think typically,
I voted no. No.
I'm sorry,
No, that's,
4-1.
Yeah. I just didn't want to vote for them all at the same time when I already put a motion on the table
Yeah.
and not have that one.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I think I got thrown off because I think typically we don't do a motion on calling the work session. We just sort it
Oh,
out.
yeah, that's right.
And then, but we can.
You're 100%
There's
right.
not
I
a-
screwed up.
No. There's not really a right or wrong way to do it.
And I didn't do that on purpose
Oh,
to
I
get
know.
under Matt's skin or anything.
So then we did vote on that one, so that one's settled on the 8th. The 14th, for reviewing interest options on Parks and Trails Fund dollars. Any,
The 14th.
yep. Interest in that topic, and does the date and time work?
Yes.
Interested in that topic, that was a good pun. I'm proud of myself. That work for everyone? Dean and John looking at the calendars.
Good.
Yeah.
Good deal. Okay, then I'll go ahead and call the work session on March 14th at 5:30.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
With these special sessions, what I want to make sure of is if, like, we've had special sessions that go and they're done at 6
Mhm.
and then, or done at 6:15 and then we got to sit here for 45 minutes. If there's some sort of inkling of that the special session won't take an hour and a half, we should move up the starting time. Or back the starting time.
Of the session.
Of the session. Yeah, and what's the notice requirement, Michelle? 3 days,
3
not
days.
including the day you announce it?
Right.
So maybe if we have a sense of that ahead of that time, that, hey, this will be a quick one, we can recall it for, cause I can just call that.
Cause the thing
I'll
about
put it
those, the thing that makes those extra awkward is because we all are sitting up here
Mhm.
and we can't talk to each other about anything
If you're up here for an hour.
45 minutes,
Yeah,
cause it's illegal.
yep. No, that is fair. And I don't know what staff has in mind for the interest options, but I'm sure you and I can chat about that between now and then.
'Cause
And
that may not take an hour and a half.
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
Um,
I'll have a better understanding after tomorrow night's commission meeting.
Sounds good. But yeah, we'll keep an eye on that so we can try to maximize time if possible. And then we just have a couple staff reports. 11A is the planning projects update that we typically have in our packet. And then 11B is the financial management plan update. Jay, did you want to go over anything on it? Or-
So for that one, I think I've spoken with all you about it, but for those who are not aware, our finance manager has submitted a resignation and is moving to a new position. As a result, of that staffing shortfall and then some significant financial operation requirements coming up right away in the first quarter and really for the first 6 months. Staff is recommending that we continue to work with Abdo, who has been our partner in financial support operations for years. They do our audits to assist us in completing some of these major milestones. We have some audit work that needs to happen that would really be helpful to have not just an experienced finance manager that has familiarity with our accounts, but also the reach back capability of that institution for some complex processes that we need to review and implement. And so staff is proposing that we approve, and it's before you, the proposal of Abdo Financial Solutions for a period not to exceed 6 months for a dollar value not to exceed $140,000. That will be paid for with the salary and the benefits package for those 6 months for the finance manager position, as well as, since they're helping us solve some long-term financial policy strategic things, we'll be using some long-term fund dollars for anything that exceeds the salary. So any questions about the proposal?
Which would be about another, what, 71,000-ish?
So what I had Abdo put together is absolutely not to exceed $140,000.
Okay,
That's on the value page.
Yep.
I'm very hopeful that we'll be able to do less than that. And we are getting some good attention. Actually, the partner from Abdo is coming to help us to start out with, who's been handling the financial solutions contract that you all approved back in September. She has been, Vicky Helkotter has been handling that. So as a former finance manager, we've used Abdo as a bridging strategy in my past position when I was a finance manager in Chaska. That's really what I'm proposing, so that these major milestones don't end up on the head of a brand new finance manager.
Yeah.
We're able to bring someone on board late spring, early summer, and those things have been completed with someone who's got familiarity with our accounts, rather than trying to get familiarity with our operations,
As they're
trying
being
to solve
onboarded,
some of
yeah.
these complex problems. We're really not setting a new person up for success. I could do this if you didn't want me to do anything else for the next several months.
I think we might need you on a couple things.
So do you need a motion?
Yes,
Can I make a motion?
sure.
To work with Abdo and propose as suggested in the package.
The option A.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Great. Thank you, Jay. Appreciate your work getting that put together.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jay.
And then we just have city council calendar, kind of a,
So I have a question.
sure,
Sorry, I've talked a lot.
no,
And I,
go for it.
seems like I'm kind of a persnickety tonight. The firearms ordinance review was put together with a committee on the council, and Ryan Burns was the main person on that was working within the city, but Ryan's been out for like
Wow.
a while. And I don't know how many meetings you guys have had as a subcommittee.
Who's the subcommittee? Is Alan and the team?
Yeah.
I don't know, I'm assuming it's not ready for the 11th.
No, it'll have to be later than that. Yeah, and I don't
It
know.
just keeps getting punted on here, that's fine.
Well, but is it? Are you having meetings about it, or what's going on there?
We haven't met in quite a while with Brian. So. But I
He
think
I think he had our final thoughts and was putting it together.
Because when it came out here at first, I had a laundry list of issues with it.
yeah, and I think we directed him to make some changes, and I think we were gonna talk with him more about that after. But
Does it make sense to reach out to him, Matt, and see kind of what he feels on it, and then also, if need be, maybe find someone else to fill in for him?
Yeah, I'll bring a recommendation to council
Okay.
as to when we should put it back on the schedule, but I think it's fair to say it's not gonna be on January 11th.
And definitely, give them our best. He's doing well.
I'm not suggesting it's not time. It's not timely. If you want to do it correctly.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't want to, Ryan put a lot of work into it. So I'm not suggesting he needs a substitute.
Gotcha.
But he has met out. I mean, he hasn't met that much. I don't think we're gonna get it.
So it almost certainly won't be on the 11th.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
I had a question on the January 11th meeting. It looks like the Hope Project is on the first meeting in January, but normally we do planning.
I have
on
that
the second.
same question, yeah. Anyone?
So after the planning meeting with Hope on Wednesday, my understanding is it actually is delayed. So I will send a reply back after I confirm that tomorrow to council.
Okay.
But my understanding is that that is not the timeline. We're looking at more of a
Couldn't be.
February timeline.
Can I ask a general question on some of these building permits that have come through? My understanding is that some of our applications are being delayed because other entities haven't chimed in. So like, for example, somebody puts an application into our city, but like the watershed hasn't commented
Mhm.
in a timely fashion, or, they got the checklist of people that have to chime in.
Mhm.
And when we have something that is put before us,
With the deadline.
we have to act within a certain amount of days and times. So 2 questions. One is, do other entities have some sort of time frame where if you submit a building permit application, does the watershed have to, or does the other traffic studies, does that stuff have a timeline similar, or can they just push it out forever and ever? And can we look at an application even though it has not been approved by these other entities?
That second part is a particularly good question. I think some of the other entities have a timeline, and Kevin, you might know more on the specifics of that.
The honest answer is it depends on what specific permit you're applying for and what scenario it is, so.
The issue is that the thing that they hold up for us is you have this many days, or it's approved as is, to a outside entity that doesn't matter, as it's not as big of an impact to them.
Yeah. So what don't want to have happen, we've had a couple of instances. Even last year with the Houston's project, that the Met Council never got back to her, and therefore we couldn't approve our city application because the Met Council hadn't chimed in, and they'd been waiting like 4 months for anything from the Met Council. So, and I've heard that from other people, is the city's not approving my application, the city's not approving my
Right.
application, they're not even accepting the application without approval from these organizations that we have nothing to do with. That's part of the process, but we're not a part of that process.
I think
So
it's gonna be very situation specific, because some we do have to wait. And some it's probably just best practice to wait, but maybe don't have to technically.
Would it be helpful, Councilmember Bottom, for us to come back and just revisit talking about process? And that would allow us then to flesh out in some ways of where are we hitting pinch points? So you're aware, and what requirements do we have that we can't forego? Like I heard you make the recommendation, there's some people that we just go, we didn't hear from and we're moving on. But there's some that we can't. Would it be helpful for you to
I think so.
clarify what those are?
And applicants too. And if other entities have any timeliness to get back, it's like, how many months did we say we couldn't look at the Houston proposal until we were screwing around, eating staff time like crazy, trying to get that done, all because the Met Council sat on it.
Yeah,
And that's not the only
Do we
example.
have like the
A lot.
information, do we give to an applicant of who these agencies are and our contact with them so that, hey, here's the numbers to call to be the,
We, yeah,
Squeaky wheel.
generally do, yeah, and there's a whole lot of different topics we're
Yeah.
touching in that, so it's hard to comment on a specific one, but yeah, we generally provide all the information that we can. There's sometimes, I mean, we generally position it and then basically say we're not doing anymore until we hear back in some cases, because we can't really release it. We'll
Mhm.
incur some liability in some cases if we release it. As the local government, we get drug into everything, right, wrong, or otherwise, so. We do try to identify all the things that they need to do to get done. Some information is less than complete, right, less than satisfactory. It all depends on the situation, so we do our best to try to sit down with them and answer questions, but if there are times where. There's a difference of opinion on what's needed, or the level of detail that's needed. Outside agencies like the watershed, they do have similar like 60-day rules, and they can be extended, kind of similar but different to planning. If it's an actual review that has to go to the watershed. In the case of the Met Council with Cook Lake, that was like an agreement for the development contract, so that didn't have any stipulation. The agreement said if you want to financially, Met Council, the financial partner. The developer wanted financial assistance from Met Council, so therefore it took longer to go through all their processes. So that one didn't have a timeline because it was literally a cooperative agreement negotiation. There was no timeline to that in terms of a decision. They were entitled, they just had to execute the deal.
Yeah,
So it's
I've
very.
heard from
it's
other
very-
people about similars when they complain about the city, and I'm like, well. It's not everything is the city's deal. And
And there's some agencies, like when you're talking to the Wetland Conservation Act, that's always a complicated situation where we're the administrator, we're basically the quarterback, and we rely. Or a permit relies on other agencies to do stuff, and so that, and sometimes we're hamstrung and we quite frankly look bad, but we have no control. Like,
yeah,
if we did anything, we'd be taking on liability for the city, so.
well, sometimes a clear understanding from the outset of what we can control and what we can't. It sounds like we have some sort of checklist.
Yeah, I think if you guys have specific questions, work through Jay, or if you're
Yeah.
comfortable,
Yeah,
work
I think
with
coming
me,
back with
and we
the
can
process
answer
outline.
those, but it's hard here on a one-off. There's probably some things. We're continually evaluating it, so we'll take feedback, but.
Okay.
Another thing that might be helpful, we just talked about how the 13th, we have a work session scheduled. We're worried about the scope of it. We could potentially just leave the time frame the way it is and put in a quick session that refreshes our permitting process. We could talk about some of the questions that you have, and we might not hit everything in that window of time, but staff would at least have a better understanding what you're concerned about for future reference, if that's helpful.
Well, the problem is
You have to notice it.
you have to notice it, and then people are gonna show up expecting it. If we don't get to it, then we're. We have a problem.
Yeah, that's true.
So I would try to just keep it separate.
Can we add to the 25th meeting, a conversation around and we're still getting the results from our conversation with the Met Council on
Mhm.
units per acre.
Yeah, I think we
We don't need any staff help on that. We can.
Okay.
We can. Just put it on here and
let's you and me talk and maybe early January, and I can work with Jay.
I'm not saying we don't like staff or anything, but I try to like,
I was taking that personally.
I sounded. I just feel like sometimes we can just have conversation and not have,
Enough to
take
drag you
any
guys into it.
time. It's a respect of your time rather than like a not respect of your expertise.
Yeah,
Well, the planning commission has asked for a review of process for comp plan. And then that's one of the things they're hoping for. So that might be a good future joint session with them, or
Yeah,
a twofer here and for them. That falls into that same bucket of education related to that council.
yeah, I wanna have the findings and the facts be documented.
Mhm.
And then
and then we can look at someone like that.
we can have a conversation with
Let's-
us and then do a joint.
Do you want to
session.
follow up with me in early January? I'll talk to Jay, make sure we get it on. We'll
Yeah.
just reserve a spot on the schedule for it. I'll get you a title of what whatever we want to call it, and the information.
For the 25th?
Yeah.
Yeah,
We'll
it
put a
can't be the
placeholder.
11th.
What,
'cause
that,
I
the
won't be
11th?
there. I won't be there.
The 25th.
Yeah.
I said that.
Yeah, that's why I was saying it.
Oh, gotcha. Yep.
Make
Um,
sure whatever research you're doing goes through staff so that before you disseminate it to council, it gets vetted by staff.
Yeah, we're doing that.
Yeah, we've had stuff on the meeting and everything. So yeah, we can get that added on there. Other than that, that's kind of what we got coming up. The farther you go out, the probably less accurate you're gonna get, but it gives you a sense of what we got coming up. And with that, if there's nothing else, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.
Merry Christmas.